40-person fight broke out at Golden Corral in Pennsylvania. Your move, Waffle House.
Rihanna is pregnant with A$AP Rocky's baby. They're going to name their baby after the one who made it all possible, Donald Trump.
The Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl, marking the first time anyone has been proud to be from Cincinnati.
This past Tuesday was Groundhog Day. This past Tuesday was Groundhog Day. This past Tuesday was Groundhog Day.
And we talked to an expert on Vikings.
But which Vikings?
The ones who wear the helmets. Oh wait, that doesn't help. The ones who do all the murdering and raping. Oh wait, that doesn't help either.
And finally, we do something that Joe Biden can't do. Remember everything he did in his first year of being president.
All this and more on.
All this and more on.
All this and more on.
The Bee Weekly.
Hey everyone, Babylon Bee podcast, Babylon Bee Weekly, hanging out with Dan Coates, our producer, and Adam Yenser, our other guy here.
That's my official title.
Other guy.
I'm going to add that to my Facebook profile. Current job, guy here at the Babylon Bee.
Here that is here in the chair. So, how's everybody's week? Anything crazy happen?
I went to Montana for stand-up. It was very fun.
That sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Any cool Montana stories?
It was 18 degrees.
That's cold.
Yeah.
So Montana's a real place?
It is a real place, yeah.
There's people
It's
that live
fun.
there?
Yeah, there's a international film festival there.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And
How are the Minnesota crowds for...
they're so supportive because they treat like... I went with this comic who was a writer for Conan, and now he writes for Ellen, and they treat you like a celebrity when you're there.
wow.
His name's Brian Kiley. Yeah, he's very funny. And the town's like so welcoming. They're awesome.
Did you try your Vikings joke on them? Or
I
no?
didn't because I was still workshopping it. I didn't think it was ready. I didn't think it was ready for prime time. Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah. Oh, the theme of the show was comedians in chairs eating popcorn. So Brian and I each did stand-up set, and then like the crowd did like a Q&A about what it's like to work in television. And the theme was that we were eating popcorn, but I was eating popcorn, and one of the kernels got stuck in my throat, and my eyes started watering. I couldn't talk because I couldn't answer questions because I was choking. Yeah.
Wow.
That's comedy.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Well, half my roof blew away.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We had a big windstorm to come in, and now I got to spend a bunch of money on a roof. So
Sounds like you're in over your head.
Well, Brian and I brought the roof down.
So that was my week, and that was Adam's week. What about you, Kyle? What about your week?
I didn't do a ton. We had a cool, fun board game night on Friday night with Dan not Dan. Dan was invited, but he didn't want to come. Patrick and Brandon. So we get to play Dune.
Yeah.
And once again,
Did
Brandon
Patrick blow everybody up?
blew everybody up again. If you know Dune, the laser gun and the shield always cause a nuclear explosion or something.
Yeah.
In the Dune book, so that's how it works in the game too. So every single time he goes in combat, this guy's just blasting laser guns like crazy and blows everybody up, which is awesome. We're gonna need you to teach us the Star Trek card game one of these days.
Oh yeah, I still need to do that.
Yeah,
It's fun.
we'll do like a lengthy 3-hour episode where we just play through the Star Trek
Definitely.
CCG. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a subscriber dare.
This is Subscriber Dare.
This person says, "Hello, I recently resubscribed to the Bee, but I should have been smarter about it. I forgot to hold out to get a subscriber dare. This is a retroactive. So we don't even get anything from this. Would it work to pretend like it didn't and then do the subscriber dare? I think it's pretty easy. You don't even have to tell us that. You could have just told us that that you'd subscribe.
I think if they're at $5, now they got to go to 10.
Yeah, you have to upgrade your subscription.
Yeah.
I would love it if Austin could redo the premium subscriber lounge intro with the BB yacht floating on crisp dollar bills. Thanks for your consideration, Derek. So right now, do we not play the old Dave one? Is that, or you just want Austin to redo it?
Austin has redone most of our segments.
All right. Well, let's message Austin and get him on the BB yacht floating on crisp $100 bills intro.
And it might even be ready for this episode.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fancy.
There you go.
So he's already a subscriber, so he'll hear it.
There you go. Derek, you named it and claimed it. And it's going to happen. Let's do our B Banger of the Week.
Banger of the Week.
Adam, you get to read this one because I think
All
this
right.
was your joke.
Banger of the week. The top shared story was Trudeau claims truckers only hate him because he's black. This, of course, was based on the numerous times he's been caught wearing blackface and other color faces.
That guy's got a problem.
He does. It's like
So
it's not like they dug up one picture. It's like this is how he dressed up for every Halloween and every party he's ever been invited to.
Yeah, you get the sense that he thinks that this is okay. Like,
Yeah.
So there really is this like convoy of truckers gunning for Ottawa, and I guess they parked around there, and then all of a sudden Trudeau was like, I have COVID and must quarantine as soon as they arrive.
First, it said he fled to like an undisclosed location or something. Like, oh no, there's.
That's
I
awesome.
don't have to deal with my constituents.
Did he really say that he said it was disgusting behavior of the truckers?
Yeah, there was some news story that came out where they were claiming some homeless shelter was claiming that the truckers were harassing them for food.
Okay.
And so that's become a big talking point that these people, they're just unruly. They're something about desecrating memorials, badgering these people for food and taking food away from homeless people. So now Trudeau comes out with a statement like, oh, they're disgusting behavior and they're doing this and they're doing that.
I've known lots of truck drivers, and one thing they are not is disgusting.
Probably the same FBI agents from January 6th.
So does nobody know where Trudeau really is? Like he's just gone?
I don't know. We actually have a statement from him, though, that we got.
Oh yeah, let's find out where he's at. We can see what he's up to.
Let's play the statement from Trudeau.
Hey, hosers, it's me, Justin Trudeau. He, him. The president of the greatest state in the U.S., Canada. This week, some truckers drove to Ottawa claiming that they're angry about a vaccine mandate, I would have had the Mounties pull them over, but their horses ain't fast enough. I tell you what. But the truth of the matter is, these truckers only hate me because I'm black. That was me in college. You privileged white folks have no idea how hard it was for me as a young black man. I was a social outcast and only got invited to one party, It was so hard being black that for a while I tried being both kinds of Indian. The feather kind and the kind that works at Tim Hortons, But I faced more racism and hatred because some people think it's funny to mock tired, outdated stereotypes, Sorry. I apologize. I was a little parched. Please don't listen to these racist truckers bashing my vax mandate. This pandemic is serious, and I should know because I just tested positive, I want these truckers to get vaxxed like I did, so they don't catch COVID like I did. New research has found that your COVID risk depends on your blood type, Your chance of catching COVID is higher if you have type A, than B, or AB, or OA. But get vaccinated regardless of whether you're type OA, ABA, BA, or A. The truth is, I want these truckers to get vaccinated because I care about them. When they're out there chain smoking, driving 19 hours a day, and eating truck stop cheeseburgers, I want them to stay healthy, So they can keep delivering our milk in a bag, hockey pucks, delicious maple syrup, and of course, black shoe polish. That we need, for reasons, May the Canadian Indigenous Two-Spirit God bless you, and may she bless Canada.
I'm glad he came clean on that and issued that statement.
He seemed, yeah.
I especially liked his
picture. That was
picture.
one of the best speeches he's given.
I liked his picture of, is it Chad Kroger and Avril Lavigne behind him?
Everything Canada's proud of. Beaver, a moose, and Chad and Avril.
He really took a page out of what's the guy from Florida that chugs the water?
Marco Rubio.
Oh,
Marco Rubio. Yeah.
Yeah, he needed a drink during his speech.
Is that a Rubio
syrup.
thing that he chugs water during?
Yeah, it was back during the 2016 election when he was running, and he reached for a glass of water and he had to reach way off screen for it.
Yeah,
but then what was funnier about it is Trump would make fun of him at every speech after that and imitate him drinking water, as weird as possible.
But didn't Trump drink water funny? He was always
People said he would grab it with both hands.
2 hands.
Like a baby with his
Well, we also had an article that nobody liked. Bomb of the week.
Bomb of the week.
Traveler having trouble finding luggage among scores of illegal immigrants on baggage claim carousel. I thought the visual on this joke was nice.
I liked this one a lot. I thought that joke was good. I wonder if the wording is too
It's too much.
too verbose.
Yeah, I got to confess, I had no idea what this article was even about.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're
I think it's a good joke. There's probably a cleaner way to write it.
there's night flights of illegal immigrants flying out to Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania or something that they've been reporting.
Mm-hmm. They're going to fight at a Golden Corral.
So it's like Biden bringing people into the country and then just flying them to different places in the country and just trying to be hush-hush about it.
Yeah, and then Psaki said, well, the flights are just resettling unaccompanied children, but there's clearly full-grown adults emerging from these planes. So I don't know if I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist, but it seems nuts. Let's do some weekly news with Adam Yenser.
It's time for the weekly news with Adam Yenser.
A massive brawl broke out at a Golden Corral in Pennsylvania after two parties got in a fight over steak. Ugh, that makes me sick. Not the fight, Golden Corral. In response to the fight, Golden Corral has changed their motto to, "When you're here, you're a dysfunctional family." Today's show host Hoda Kotb announced that she and her fiancé have broken up, which is very sad. She was so close to getting a pronounceable last name. This Tuesday was Groundhog Day, the day the media takes a break from lecturing America about science and misinformation and lets a woodchuck predict the weather. At this year's Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals, the Los Angeles Rams will play on their home field, which is surrounded by homeless. The stadium is located in downtown LA, which means the Bengals will have a 5-hour flight and the Rams will have a 4-hour commute. Schools in the Bengals' hometown of Cincinnati have canceled classes the day after the game, while LA will celebrate with its traditional lighting of the cop cars.
Either way, lose or win.
Yes.
The cop cars will burn.
It's either celebratory cop car burning or angry cop car burning. But either way, they're going to burn. And this year's Super Bowl will feature the youngest matchup of coaches in NFL history. Tom Brady has concussions older than these guys. And speaking of the GOAT, Tom Brady has just broken one final NFL record for most retirements in a single week. I heard he retired like 3 times this week. A butterfly sanctuary in Texas closed for safety reasons after QAnon believers spread a rumor that it's housing a sex trafficking ring. But they couldn't be more wrong. It turns out no one who works at the butterfly sanctuary has ever had sex. But this is such a ridiculous accusation. I mean, monarchs don't engage in sex trafficking. Princes do. Rihanna and A$AP Rocky are expecting their first child together. And to spend more time with the baby, Rihanna will take a few months off of work. A British man whose handsome mugshot went viral among admiring women is now being called the Fit Felon. And no one is more jealous than the Friend Zone Strangler. A woman in the UK claims that she was virtually raped in Facebook's metaverse. The perpetrator was ordered to hit Control-Z and undo the rape. According to a new study by Johns Hopkins University, lockdowns in the US and UK had little or no impact on COVID deaths. Of course, you already knew that if you listened to the misinformation on Joe Rogan's podcast. Although lockdowns didn't stop COVID, they did destroy countless businesses and make people's lives miserable for 2 years. Wasn't that really the point all along?
Yeah, true.
CNN President Jeff Zucker resigned after admitting to an inappropriate relationship with a coworker. He had initially denied the allegation, saying, "Zucker, I hardly know her." After violence broke out at a federal prison in Texas, federal prisons across the country were placed on lockdown. Although it's still unclear how being on a lockdown in prison is different than regular being in prison. That's it for the news. If you want to see more, check out Canceled News on my YouTube channel.
But now, this week's edition of Stuff That's Good.
So my stuff that's good this week is Pokemon Legends, which is the first kind of open world, fully 3D Pokemon game where you actually get to sneak around in the bushes and stalk the Pokemon and then throw balls at them. And it's very exciting, and I love it. It's the game that I always wanted.
Is it like the original? I haven't played Pokemon since the original Game Boy game, and I played Pokemon Snap a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it comparable? Is it the same sort of game? Sorry, I'm so old.
So it is a direct evolution of the old Game Boy games,
I see.
where you're trying to catch a team and build them up and then battle all these people. But it's done where like catching the Pokemon works more how it does like in the anime, like where you see them in the wild and and then you sneak up and like I gotta throw a berry out there and distract them and then throw a ball instead of like the other games, the Game Boy ones, like
You have to fight it and then...
you just kind of walk back and forth in the grass and then it's like, Pokemon appears. This one, they're actually in the world, so you can see like a bee Pokemon flying around and you're like, oh, there's one, and you get them. And it turns me into a 5th grader again.
What's your favorite Pokemon?
I have a soft spot for Bulbasaur, I think.
That was, that was my favorite starting one.
I always
back in the
picked
Game Boy
Bulbasaur.
game,
He was kind of the cheat because if you picked him, you could beat like the first 2 or 3 gyms really easily
Oh, okay.
because they were all weak against grass.
Charmander guy.
Charmander's good, but he does make it harder to win the first couple of gym battles. And then you get Charizard at the end, which is, everybody liked having Charizard.
Man. Yeah, I like Squirtle.
Yeah.
So you're saying they revamped the game so that it can be enjoyable by 35-year-olds?
So we have been demanding from Game Freak for years, like a full open world Pokemon game. Like, why hasn't that happened? And they kept disappointing us. Pokemon Coliseum. Oh, it's going to be a full 3D Pokemon RPG. No. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness on the GameCube. Oh, it's going to be a full 3D. No, it's not that. It's not what you think it is. So then when this one is announced, I was like, it's going to be... But this is actually pretty much like you get to walk around the areas, and it's got some weaknesses. You know, the graphics aren't great, like they... You know, but it's clearly a step in the right direction for Pokemon.
Nice.
I think I dropped off at like Pokemon Red.
Yeah. So, to me, this is the best Pokemon game since Pokemon Red and Blue.
Wow.
And I've played almost every game since then.
Awesome.
And I'm a grown adult. What's
Awesome.
your...
My stuff that's good, it's a comedy show that I just stumbled upon recently because a friend recommended it, but it's several years old. It's from 2012, and it's called Burning Love. And it's basically a parody of all those like Bachelor-style dating shows. Which I never watched them a whole lot, but when I was at Ellen, we'd always have to show clips from them, so I saw like the types of people that are on there. But this show is hilarious, and apparently it ran for 3 seasons, and the cast is like incredible. Like Ben Stiller is in it and produced it, and
wow.
Jennifer Aniston's in it, Kristen Bell is in it, Ken Jeong is in it, Natasha Leggero, and it's just like hilarious. Like it's the host is played by Michael Ian Black. And then Ken Marino plays the Bachelor, and he's got these like girls living in a house that he has to choose from, and like they're all crazy characters. One of them is named Agnes and is 84 years old. And the humor is like really funny. Apparently, it was like nominated for an Emmy Award for one season.
never
but,
even
like,
heard
no
of it.
one's heard of it.
I've never
Yeah.
heard of it.
Okay.
Now, what's the tone? Is it closer to like a dry parody, mockumentary, Christopher Guest style, or is it more over the top?
I would say it's sort of in between in that it feels like you're just watching an episode of The Bachelor. It's very like true to form as far as those shows go. The characters in it I would say, are a little like wackier than like Christopher Guest. It's not particularly
not
dry.
right there,
But like they're one of the contestants is a WNBA coach, and she's clearly a lesbian, and starts falling for the other contestants instead of The Bachelor.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's very funny.
I just messaged my wife. We need to watch Burning Love.
And I think it's on Pluto TV, which is like a free streaming app, or you can get it on Amazon Prime.
Okay, awesome.
So we're doing a trend here of everyone being very on brand.
On brand. Pokemon.
Kyle's Pokemon. Adam is comedy. I'm going to recommend, as a stuff that's good, the R.C. Sproul expositional commentary. And so I think that there are 7 of them now. But
you
it's basically...
you didn't even go with like a pop version, like a layman's book or some. You just went straight for the expositional.
I think these are very approachable. These
Okay.
are very much like the layman's, because this is basically...
I'm just glad there's 7 of them, because I know if I read one, I'd be like, oh, that's it?
They're
So-
very bingeable.
They're bingeable. Yeah. So, but I mean, if you're looking for a book that you can read as like your daily devotions, it's like they
cool.
basically took R.C. Sproul's sermons and basically made them into chapters. And so you have like a text of scripture, and you open it up, and it's like his sermon points of how he preached through it. So you can get.
Oh yeah, I've seen these, like the one on John. And
Yeah, they have John, Luke, Matthew, Mark. So the 4 Gospels.
All the
There's
hits.
all the greatest hits. Romans and Acts and 1st and 2nd Peter, I think, are the ones they have. And
the lesser known books.
I have Luke and Romans, and that's like my daily read. It's very good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So you can play Pokemon, watch some secular comedy with dirty jokes in it,
Or you can do something spiritual.
and then afterwards you can read R.C. Sproul to repent. All right, let's move on. We're going to go to now a retrospective on Biden's first year in office.
Biden's first year. A retrospective.
Now, Biden probably doesn't remember all of these things.
How has it only been a year?
Well, what a year it's been.
What a year.
He's really done a lot.
Pulled some of the greatest hits. It was hard narrowing it down because there's so many.
Because he's accomplished so much.
So let's go all the way back to March of 2021. Biden repeatedly said that Republicans opposing Democrat voting rights bills were making Jim Crow look like Jim Eagle. I started seeing the memes about Jim Eagle before I saw the actual statement, and I thought people were just riffing on Jim Crow or something. I didn't know that he actually said that. That's awesome.
But I'm also trying to figure out, Jim, like, is that
logical.
an eagle is bigger than a crow? So if they're making Jim Crow look worse than it was, and their new thing is their
Jim
new
Crow.
thing Jim Eagle?
Hold on, I'm
doesn't really make
googling.
any
I'm
sense.
googling Jim Eagle Biden's Jim Crow analogy explained. I don't know.
How does that make
I don't know what
sense?
he's
I never
talking
even
about.
thought of that. Like,
It's just I don't even know what he's trying to say, even if
because
Yeah, it should be Jim, like, Dove or something.
make Jim Eagle look like Jim Dove.
yeah.
Bizarre Jim Crow.
Jim
analogy.
Eagle sounds like a Native American like how they have like modern first names, but they still have Native American last names. Like this is Jim Eagle.
Jim Eagle sounds like a congressperson or something.
Yeah.
Vote for Jim Eagle.
But he's trying to say that Republican legislation is worse than
I
Jim
see.
Crow laws. Is that what he's trying to say?
That's what he's meaning,
But
I
he's-
think. But
yeah,
he's,
that's
I feel
what
like
he
he
says
said
it
it
wrong.
backwards.
But it's backwards because yeah.
Well, there's 50 of these, so we better keep moving. Also in March, Biden fell up the stairs of Air Force One 3 times in 3 seconds.
Oh man.
The memes that came out of that were amazing. I liked the Mario Kart one where like the banana peels are falling out. He's like, whoa, whoa.
It's like I like the one where he's like falling into a different dimension.
Oh yeah.
He just keeps rolling.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
It really is. He tries to recover and then he like goes
Yeah.
down 2 times harder. Yeah.
Poor guy.
All right. We have one in June. Joe Biden appears to be lost at the G7 summit, and he's walking around and he's like very disoriented. And then the reporter yells at him. They start asking him questions, and his wife has to come and rescue him.
Roll tape.
How are your meetings going in Cornwall, Mr. President?
I beg your pardon?
How are your meetings going here in Cornwall?
Very well.
Come on.
It kind of makes you feel bad for the guy. Like it really makes you think like he's not all there.
Yeah.
And his wife is always like trying to like corral him.
Like hurt him places.
And what's sad is like everyone that's there knows what's happening and they're laughing. They're laughing at him while he's like very visibly disoriented.
That's what's always hard for me about him is like I dislike his policies so much and I dislike this presidency.
Yeah.
But I also have this like thing where I feel bad for him where it's like
Yeah,
whether
you
I
do feel
agreed with
bad.
him or not, he served this country for a long time. It's like let him go spend time with his family and like
Yeah.
not it like it's sad to watch some of this stuff.
I don't feel bad for him. Just let's keep mocking him.
All right.
Let's move on. July in the 4th of July, in the 4th of July, the White House announced that you saved 16 cents on your cookout this year, which is awesome. Like even if it were true, why would you announce that? Like
Yeah.
why? That's just wonderful.
I like the GIF on the tweet that's from where it keeps like rotating different objects. It's like ground beef is now this, vanilla ice cream is now this, and it's like
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
like, even if
they
that was-
spent so much time working
Yeah.
on it, and nobody in the PR team was like, "This is a bad idea."
He just wanted to
16
tweet about
cents.
ice cream again. In July, he falsely claimed that he used to drive an 18-wheeler.
Yeah, so I guess they looked into it and they found like there was one time where he went on a ride along with a cargo truck driver to like see what their problems were or whatever, you know, one of those PR stunts like to do ride along. And that's the only thing they can find that even remotely is close to this.
so in his brain that just stuck. I used to drive an 18-wheeler.
He has such a habit of just saying things that are just not true at all.
We've got more coming
Yeah.
up, so just stay tuned here.
Okay, in July, Joe Biden yelled, "My butt's been wiped," at reporters. And we don't really know what he was trying to say or why he would say that. But
I don't even know that one.
Yeah, like if you watch the video, we'll play the clip. Roll the
I
clip.
Does immigration need to be in reconciliation? Must it be in reconciliation?
What must be what? What must be what? What must be what?
I don't know that he said my butt's been wiped, but
But what could he have been trying to say?
look at this.
So like even if he wasn't saying that, what on earth was he saying?
I heard an explanation once that made sense to me, that he was like trying to ask for clarification on what the reporter said, and there was a phrase that made sense, but just him walking up and bellowing that. Okay, yeah. So I think someone asked him a question, and he was clarifying. He said, "It must have been what?" or something like that. Like, and if you like read that phrase and then watch it, you go, okay, maybe that is what it was. But I prefer just thinking that he randomly said that. In August, a bumbling Biden got lost again in the bushes on the way to the White House after ignoring a Secret Service agent trying to point him onto the concrete path. That's a great video, too. Roll tape.
Yeah, so very clearly the Secret Service agent is like pointing, like come this way. And I think he walks past like a pallet, like the pallet's like blocking the path. He goes around it, and then the secret agents are like all trying to, like, oh no, where's he going? And then he's pointing, go this way. And he goes around him.
Yeah, and then he keeps walking way up, and then there's like another entrance up there, so they finally managed to corral him and get him back into the thing.
Oh man, it's so
awesome.
Good.
They should hire a border collie to just herd him into wherever he has to go. This is from August. Biden was asked a question about the Afghanistan withdrawal by a reporter, and he said he dismissed the Afghans falling off of airplanes, saying Afghanistan was 4 or 5 days ago.
We've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
What did you think when you first saw those pictures?
What I thought was we have to gain control of this.
Terrible. Just terrible.
So not even getting the days wrong, but just the callousness of that.
Oh, it's 4 or 5 days ago.
Like, come on, let's get over it.
Let's get over it.
They fell off the airplane 4 or 5 days ago. You're still talking
I've
about
done so many other bad things since then.
Yeah, I think it was actually
I've messed
2
up
days.
so much in those 4 or 5
Yeah, in addition,
days.
I think it was actually only like 2 days before, which makes it better.
Oh, man. So this is back in August. Joe Biden said that 350 million Americans had been vaccinated, which is 20 million more than the entire population of the United States.
Now, this is almost too easy because anytime he has to say a number in a speech, he just says bizarre stuff. If we were allowed to go back to the campaign, he had some crazy ones, like 150 million Americans have been killed by gun violence, I think was one of his.
Like half the population.
have been killed by guns.
Well, soon that will be the case.
Yeah.
Cities.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, 150 million were killed in Chicago, though. In October, rumors circulated online that Biden had soiled himself in front of the Pope with hashtags trending like Poopy Pants Biden and Poopgate, which I don't care if that's true or not. It's funny.
It's so funny. It's
Well,
just like
it's so believable.
Yeah.
Like you think like that could happen.
And the screen grab was funny because whether or not that's what really happened, there were just these shots of the Pope just stone faced staring at Biden. And it's like you just imagine that's what like the Pope is thinking. Also in October, Biden retells another false, completely made up story about traveling on Amtrak train for 2.2 million miles. And he's told the story 5 times in public now. What's more, the conductor that he references in the story died decades before he supposedly took this trip.
So 2.2 million miles.
On a train, yeah.
Isn't that like going to the moon like 10 or 20 times?
I think we figured it'd be about 10 times to the moon, or 5 round trips.
Yeah.
So like, how is that even possible that he did that in America on Amtrak?
But what's so weird about some of these things, like all politicians like lie and exaggerate or like try to relate to people, but usually there's some like purpose for their exaggeration. Like there's no purpose to claiming that you rode 2.2 million miles on an Amtrak train.
Like no one's going to think less
nothing.
of him.
I'm voting for this guy.
He rode 2 million miles.
2.2 million
No
miles.
one's going to think less of him if he rode like 1 million miles or like 50,000
He's
miles.
on he's on Snowpiercer. He's just circling the earth.
This is in November. He tried to force a vaccine mandate on all large employers. I think that was if they had 100 or more employees, and government workers through an OSHA mandate, but the Supreme Court knocked it down.
Well,
So that's his legacy.
yeah. But he didn't poop his pants or anything, so it's not that funny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, he might have as it was happening.
That's a weird way to try to do that. Like, you're not going to go through Congress. You're not going to do like an executive order. You're going to say, well, through OSHA.
It made complete sense to me when I heard it, like, oh, that's how they're going to try to do this. You know, like
it's just like a bureaucracy. Like the bureaucracy will enforce this.
and it really kind of emphasizes
They said it was like a workworkplace safety issue or something.
Yeah, which is just such a weird.
Yeah.
Like they're supposed to make sure that you inspected your forklifts and stuff like that. Not that you're injected with the vaccine.
They're going to test the forklifts for COVID.
Yeah. In November also, Biden called Satchel Paige, who is a black baseball pitcher, the Great Negro. And that's in quotation marks. I'm not saying that. That is in quotation marks. But they were saying maybe he was stumbling over his words. He was trying to talk about the old Negro League.
He was giving a speech honoring this Satchel Paige and talking about the history of the Negro League. And then he, after saying the Negro League, which is what it was called, he then goes on to say, and we have here the Great Negro at the time. It just says Satchel Paige. And it's one of those things that, like, I totally believe that it was just he stumbled over his words.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things like with Trump, had he said this?
Oh, yeah.
Right. There's people that didn't even hear about this happening.
I didn't hear about it until
ignored it
recently,
so much. And yet with Trump, you had like Bigley became a thing, Kofefi became a thing. Anytime he stumbled or said anything stupid, it was a headline and they tried to read into it. If Trump had ever accidentally called a black person the Great Negro at the time, it would have been the biggest racist headline of the day for a week.
CNN would still be talking about it.
Well, this isn't like the first time he said something like this too. It's like when he said like, well, it's not just rich kids, also black kids or something. So racist. Like just the assumptions there.
Black kids are just as smart as rich kids or
something like that. Yeah.
Poor kids are just as...
Poor kids are just as bright as white kids. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Another accident. He farted in front of Camilla Parker Bowles, Duchess of Cornwall, at a climate change summit, and she reportedly couldn't stop talking about it. I also feel like Camilla Bowles' face always looks like she smelled a fart. This is how she walks around.
Maybe you're trying to impress her.
General rules of etiquette in England: you're not supposed to fart in front of the Duchess of Cornwall.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's probably a procedure for it. You have to curtsy first or something, and then
He didn't observe.
You have to announce your fart before the royals.
Yeah. As an American, does this make us like him more or less that he farts?
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So maybe that's a good thing he did. So this is back in November. I guess. Oh, this is the same event.
I think it was the same summit.
Yeah, this is right after he farted in front of Camilla. That he fell asleep during the UN climate summit.
I think there's footage of this, or at least a picture. You got to watch this. It's great.
Yeah. So someone's giving a very impassioned speech on how climate change is going to wipe us all out, and Biden just zonks out. He's done.
I never found him more relatable than in that moment.
Yeah.
So this is another good thing he's done.
Also in November, he falsely claimed that he used to drive an 18-wheeler. Again. Told the story again.
What's crazy to me is that they never get called out on if they make a totally fabricated story.
Yeah,
like I used to drive an 18-wheeler. Nobody in the media goes up to him and says, "No, you're lying. Stop saying that."
Yeah, at least not in the moment. Like I was actually surprised CNN did a whole compilation thing. Here's all the false claims Biden did in his first year. I was like, oh, that's cool. But if you read the article in the top paragraph, it's like, let's be clear, Biden is not as bad as Trump. That was how they opened the article.
Yeah. December. Biden reads, and then the message said, end of message, off of a teleprompter.
So he's reading the directions of like
the stage directions. Yeah. Pause.
End of message.
End of message.
But at the end of the day, we've always found ways to come together. We can find that unity again. Then the message said, end of message.
This is in December. Democrats mocked for Twitter graphic thanking Biden for 2-cent gas price drop. So
they didn't learn their lesson from the 16-cent barbecue.
Yeah. So like inflation, I think the official number over the year was 7% or something, or 8%.
That's the official number, which is probably not as big as the actual number.
Yeah, and so if you just compare gas prices from Trump to Biden in the end of the year. Well, wouldn't that just be on its face false?
Well, because it spiked massively, and then it went down 2 cents.
Yeah,
and then they were like, look at that, 2 cents. And then the way that they cropped the graph, the scale of the graph, they actually just showed it going 2 cents down.
I saw people doing that with the Spotify thing. Really? After they defended Joe Rogan, their stock went down this much. And it's like, well, all the stocks went down that much. And then it went right back up. So
all stocks went down further, like Netflix and all
other companies went down further.
It's so funny how they just frame information. They just look at the narrow window of what proves their point.
Yeah. In January, he called Peter Doocy. Is that you say Doocy?
Doocy, yeah.
Doocy. That's a funny name.
Biden made a doozy in front of the Pope.
In January, he called Peter Doocy an SOB. Which was awesome. And the way he does it is so interesting,
It
too.
was the most quick-witted I've seen him, though, as president.
He's like, oh, yeah, inflation.
He goes,
inflation.
because
Oh, yeah,
Peter
that's-
Doocy asked him,
inflation's
he goes, do you think inflation is a liability for your campaign or presidency?
Yeah.
And he goes, no, inflation's great. More inflation. You stupid son of a
It was awesome.
Well, I like what happened after that because like all of like CNN and everyone came out with an article like what Biden said was bad, but Trump was worse.
But Trump was the same thing as the CNN
It's
thing. Yeah.
just they always have to like go back to Trump. Also in January, Biden keeps claiming he was arrested at various points, often for civil rights causes. He said, I did not walk in the shoes of generations of students who walked these grounds, but I walked other grounds because I'm so old. I was there as well. You think I'm kidding, man? It seems like yesterday the first time I got arrested. And if you look up the facts, it appears Biden was never arrested.
He's claimed that he, as a kid, wandered onto the Senate floor and was arrested. And then he claimed like he was trying to approach Nelson Mandela in South Africa and was arrested. And there was another one that he claimed he got arrested for that there's just no evidence that he's ever been arrested for anything.
So he's just flat out lying, trying to boost his street cred. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm down with the struggle.
But I feel like now he probably frequently wanders onto the Senate floor. No, sir, this way. Back this way.
Well, everyone, that is a look back at the year of Biden presidency. End of message. Okay, now me and Adam sat down and talked with a Viking expert,
Yeah.
Arthur Herman, and he's got a lot of interesting commentary on the Vikings and like philosophical conclusions drawn from the Vikings.
He wrote a whole book about the Vikings and about both their history and their sort of impact on America and their legacy.
Yeah, awesome. Let's check it out.
And now for another interview on The Bee Weekly.
It wasn't specific to you either. We ask all our guests to wear
Yes.
Viking horns. Yeah. and
In fact,
yeah.
I think I just saw a news article like literally yesterday or a day or two ago that researchers found that those horned helmets predate the Vikings by like 3,000 years or something like that. Did you happen to see that?
Could be. I mean, that is possible. I mean, someone could, it's very likely that maybe, Neolithic warriors wore it as a kind of totemic symbol of one sort or another. It's hard to say. But you guys know the Viking quest, right? And the character from the fictional character, Johnny Drama, who was supposed to have launched his career. This is on Entourage. Launched his career as playing a Viking on a fictional TV series called Viking Quest. So he shows up at Comic-Con wearing this utterly ridiculous Viking headset, with horns that stick out about 2.5 feet on either side. And I think that's the kind of caricature that gets conveyed about what sort of helmets they wore. They wore helmets like everybody else. It was there to protect your nose and your upper face, and whatever other kind of ornamentation or decoration it had was the least.
How did the horn stereotype get associated with Vikings? Like, where did that sort of...
It comes out, that's a good question. It comes out of the 19th century, when it was seen as a way to provide a kind of romantic headdress for representation, not just of Vikings, but particularly in Wagner's Ring cycle, where, the classic one of Brunhilde, right? The classic image of Brunhilde and the Valkyries with her winged helmets and so on. All of this is a 19th century invention. And it kind of got carried over into the way in which people thought about how Vikings would dress or how they would go into battle.
I understand the story of the Vikings is pretty personal to you, and that like your ancestors came over from Scandinavia. So you're descended from Vikings. Would they be ashamed of you seeing you just sit in a cozy office?
Oh, you should. The temperature in here is like it's 50 degrees. Yeah. So no, I mean, I put up with that kind of temperature all the time to toughen up and for winter it's required. And growing up in Wisconsin as I do, temperatures, indoor temperatures in the 50s. That's one for tank top weather. My grandparents on my mother's side came over, in all seriousness, just before World War One. World War One and the German U-boat threat really shut down transatlantic crossings for ordinary passengers and for passenger liners. So they came over from Norway and eventually settled in Minnesota, which is sort of the hub for Scandinavian immigrants.
I never even knew that Minnesota was known as the hub for Scandinavian settlers. Is that where the Minnesota Vikings football name comes from?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. That's exactly why. Right. Yep. Well, it's, all of that sort of upper tier of the Midwest, Wisconsin, which is where my parents still live, Minnesota, Iowa, the Dakotas. That's definitely Scandinavia, American Central. Now the Danes, here's an interesting little factoid for you. Danish immigrants, large numbers of them settled in Utah, as well as California. And the reason is because many of them came over as Mormons. And so that's why the Danes are, I think, the second largest ethnic group in Utah to this day.
So did you know a lot about Viking history growing up then because of your family heritage there?
Not so much for that. It was not so much a part of the family heritage, as you were saying. It's interesting, too. My grandmother, my mother's mother, always called them Vikings. Not a hard V, but a W. And so it was the Minnesota Vikings football team and the Vikings from Norway. No, my interest in the Vikings really, and my knowledge of it, from which the book Viking Heart really comes forth. That first part in particular, which is really about the Vikings and their voyages and their settlements in Europe, comes out of my background in medieval history. I originally thought when I was in college I was going to become a medieval historian. Didn't happen that way. It didn't. My destiny took me in a variety of other directions. But that background in medieval history through undergraduate and then graduate school came in handy for talking about their context, the Dark Age and early medieval Europe, writing the book. No doubt about that.
How did the Green Bay Packers get their name?
Meatpacking. Back in the days when Green Bay, Wisconsin was a big, meatpacking.
Do you want to go through all the NFL teams?
In fact, that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons people have suggested that with supply chain issues with the meatpacking industry, that they mobilize the Green Bay Packers. Set it up. They carry them. For crying out loud, live up to your name, guys, and get out there and do your job. So that's the story with the Packers.
What do you think about Harold Hardrada, and do you like him?
He's an interesting figure. I talk about him at length in the book, and he winds up having an important rendezvous with destiny, not a revenue with destiny, a rendezvous with destiny, because he is the Viking leader who King Harold of England defeats at the Battle of Stamford Bridge and secures England from a second Viking conquest. It's 1066. Then Harold, having defeated Harold Hardrada, heads south and gets defeated in his turn by William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings, the more famous of the two battles in 1066 that decides sort of England's future, who's going to rule, what ethnic group is going to control the court and the kingdom. But Harold himself is, his life story is like a Viking saga. It's an incredible one of how he was disinherited from his brother's inheritance of the kingdom, traveled to Constantinople and served in the Byzantine emperor's bodyguard, the Varangian Guard. Made a career for himself as a freebooter and as a warrior. in the Middle East, then in the Mediterranean, then headed home to reclaim his throne, which he did, and established himself as the sworn enemy of the Danes and the Norwegians and everybody else that he could find to engage in battle. And then the opportunity, as I explained in the book, the opportunity comes up for him to get a slice of the Kingdom of England when King Harold's brother decides that the end of the struggle for succession, who will be the King of England after the death of Edward the Confessor, when he convinces Harold Hardrada that they can split the kingdom between them if Harold will help him assume the throne. That's how Harold ends up on the other side of the North Sea, occupying York, and then killed at the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066, dying with a poem on his lips, because, as the saga tells us, Harold was not only a great warrior and a ruthless king, but also a brilliant impromptu poet. It's the Viking equivalent of being a rapper.
So he could freestyle.
Exactly. When you're in battle, you sort of, riff on the scene and what's taking place. Your guys are dying. They're about to win, or their guys are dying. We're about to win. And so you compose a little verse like that while you're hacking your way.
You just give him a sick burn before you die.
Yeah.
In Harold's case, that rap
was everyone named Harold back then?
It's a very popular name. There's no doubt about that. That's right. There's a lot of Svens that go around as well, and of course it also becomes it's a name in my case that's also very close to my family, because my mother's younger brother was Harold.
Could he freestyle?
Well, actually, he did. He did have. He was sort of a sort of James Taylor minstrel kind of guy.
That's pretty much freestyle rap.
Yeah. So it's a music. The Viking heritage could be a musical heritage, gentlemen, as well as a warrior heritage or one of intrepid exploration.
Yeah. Well, you've touched on it a little bit already, but with your new book, The Viking Heart, How Scandinavians Conquer the World, just in terms of movies, films, how we think of as Vikings, what's accurate, what's not, what are the most common inaccurate characterizations of Vikings that you see out there?
Well, actually, I think, I will be honest with you, I think a lot of the more recent characterizations, especially the TV series Vikings, is probably more accurate than one might want to assume from the point of view of screenwriters and film producers. I think probably the further back you go and look at movies that are made from about Viking themes, movies like The Longships, the one with Richard Widmark and Sidney Poitier, who is of course no longer with us, but one of his justly forgotten roles in The Longships. There you have to sort of say that the representation is probably pretty stereotypical and not very accurate. I would say, by and large, the one important inaccuracy that seems to creep into every representation of the Vikings on film is that every time you see them, if they're not engaged in battle, they're reveling all the time. They're sitting around the fire, drinking, from
the skulls of their enemies and
aquavit or whatever else, the alcoholic beverage that is the beverage of choice. And they're, it's this sort of constant partying. Vikings wouldn't have been able to survive or get anything done if they'd spent all their time partying like that. This is not, a Viking village is not a fraternity house. Of course, there were times when it was important. Certain feasts related to religious sacrifices or victories of battle or greeting visitors from a neighboring community or neighboring kingdom just before you slaughtered them in battle. the following day. But by and large, I mean, you can't really get anything done if you're going to be spend all of your time reveling. You don't see a lot of good representation of Vikings, having a couple of boiled eggs for dinner and turning in early.
And that doesn't make for an exciting TV series.
That obviously is one of the problems. And I think people will be very disappointed if they were to see the Vikings living kind of the same old as part of the routine and life in the village or life on shipboard. One representation, though, seriously, that I would say is probably pretty accurate has been when you look at representation of in series like the Vikings is the role of women. That part of that, of course, is the demand. Right today, the cultural demand is we have to represent women as much as equals as we dare in whatever historical setting we're portraying. But in the case of the Vikings, we know, and as I talk about in the book, The Viking Heart, that they, of all of the Dark Age communities and kingdoms, the Vikings were the ones in which women probably had the most active roles, the most rights and privileges, certainly by comparison with their counterparts in Mediterranean civilizations, where women, were very carefully sequestered, very much in unequal status. In the Viking world, we have this evidence from the sagas, from the archaeology, a lot of which contributed to sort of our new look at and understanding of the role of the Vikings. That a lot of what we see here is that women did occupy a much more active part in Viking society.
Did they only make 72 gold pieces for every 100 gold pieces that a man Viking made?
I think it really would sort of depend upon where you got the gold pieces from. I think that was basically it. In terms of the division of loot, it's very hard to know whether Viking women got equal share to the men. But we do know that they did participate in Viking expeditions, that they were often fighting side by side with their menfolk in it. And as I explain in the book, there's one particular burial site in Birka in Sweden, in which the grave of a Viking leader, which was unearthed in the 19th century, has turned out to be, thanks to DNA evidence, the grave of a woman leading Vikings in battle. Not unheard of, and the historical evidence suggests that there was at least one or two who engaged in.
In terms of diversity and representation, so we know that the women Vikings is a thing. Were there, different races of Vikings? Were there black Vikings and Mexican Vikings?
Black Vikings and Mexican Vikings, I'm not sure. I don't know. But what we do know, and again, the DNA evidence confirms this, is that there was no sense of a kind of sort of ethnic or racial stereotype that made you a Viking and made others non-Vikings. With the key element in what it is that makes a Viking, in other words, someone who participates in these expeditions, whether it's marauding expeditions or exploratory expeditions looking for new land, looking for new territory to settle. What made it is if you've got the guts to set out with 30 or 40 buddies, comrades, into the, going to sea and spending perhaps weeks or months, right, at sea to land on some shore where you don't know who you're going to encounter. You don't know whether you're going to be facing hostile tribes or whether you're going to face friendly natives who will be happy to engage in trade with you or not. If you were willing to engage in that kind of enterprise, hell, they would take you. You were a Viking. But the idea that caught on in the 19th century that there was somehow some sort of a Nordic racial type that defined the Viking community and therefore was the root cause for the Vikings' accomplishments and their courage in battle and their superior skill as conquerors and as explorers. The evidence doesn't really support that, and the DNA evidence that we've got from graves and so on really blows it to smithereens.
No, I've heard stories of like when they go on these sea voyages, I've heard stories of them like reaching North America, and that Vikings, had been here years before we sort of think of, America as being discovered by
Hey, that's right. 500 years before Columbus. That's
what's interesting in your book, you talk about how the Vikings legacy, like how much impact does their sort of mindset and their culture have on what we see as like American culture today?
Well, that's an interesting question. It really goes, what you're asking about, Dan, really goes kind of to the root of the book. Because what I really wanted to do here with the Viking art was to say that the skill set, the incredible cultural skill set that really drove the Vikings to do the extraordinary things that they did in terms of their voyages of exploration, their voyages of marauding and conquest, that's true, but also the way in which a small population was able to dominate large parts of the globe for more than 200 years, 300 years, against populations much larger and much richer than theirs, and coming from a really inhospitable environment. Scandinavia, it's cold a lot of the time. It's not an environment that leads to a kind of a prosperous, affluent lifestyle in and of itself. That cultural skill set of the kind of almost tribal loyalty to family, clan, and community, but at the same time of recognizing the importance of intrepid individuals who are willing to set out on their own and go and find and bring back the resources that the community needs in order to survive and prosper. That cultural skill set remained in place in Scandinavia in the centuries after the Vikings came. It changed. It was altered. And one of the important themes of my book is the way in which the coming of Christianity really did alter, I think everyone would agree, for the better, that Viking spirit, making it less bloodthirsty, making it more able to accommodate the feelings of compassion, the feelings of a sense of conscience. I mean, one of the great things about being a Viking in the pagan era was never having to say you're sorry, right? You kill people, you engage in burning down villages, attacking towns, pillaging monasteries. This is what you did, right? The coming of Christianity brings a sense of conscience. What am I doing? What's the moral calculus behind what I'm doing, or the pain or the suffering that I might be inflicting on others, which is unnecessary and needless?
I like to think of a Christian Viking now. That's a fun that he still loots and pillages villages, but then he gives an altar call at the end.
He says sorry.
or he asks for forgiveness after.
It says, I'm really sorry about all things that I did. How can I make it up to you?
It's weird because you said the Vikings who never said sorry. They first landed in Newfoundland, I think, and now Canadians say sorry all the time.
That's right.
Somewhere that changed.
So not exactly. Well, the Canadians is a whole other set of issues and problems I got to deal with. That I don't want to get distracted on that. And it's interesting. It is very interesting too, gents, because if you look at the pattern of Scandinavian immigration, which really, really comes underway in the 19th century, especially the second half of the 19th century. That's when my father's great-grandfather came over from Norway. As I say, my mother's family, right? Both of her parents came from Norway in the early 20th century. His great-grandfather came over in an earlier wave of Scandinavian immigration just before the Civil War, which was how my great-great-grandfather got involved in that conflict. Served in the 15th Wisconsin Regiment and got badly wounded during the Civil War. But what's interesting is that the pattern of immigration is one that leads almost exclusively to the United States. In other words, there are lots of other places that you could go to get away from really bad weather. and poor natural resources if you wanted to. I mean, look at the Italian, right? Look what happens with the Italian diaspora. They go everywhere. A lot of them go to the United States, but many of them go to South America. Large numbers of them go to North Africa, for example, and settle in Algeria, become part of the Algerian, Pied Noir community there. But in the case of Scandinavians coming across, Danes, Norwegians, Swedes coming across the Atlantic, where do they settle? Some of them end up in Canada, it's true, but a very small number. Those who do landand disembark in Canada, for example, because a lot of the passenger lines, especially from England, they landfall in Canada. But what they do, and this is what my grandfather did, my mother's father did, his family, is they headed south through the St. Lawrence Seaway down to the Great Lakes and then to America. They were drawn to America for an important reason. And that is that they recognized there was something about what Americans had created as a republic, as a society of free human beings, that they saw as important to fulfill their own vision of what it meant to be happy, what it meant to be a free person, and to build a strong family and community.
Well, I wish we could find a topic we could really get you going on. Something that you're passionate about.
That you're passionate about, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I know you've got to, and I apologize.
Do you talk about Vikings a lot, like at parties and stuff?
I thought you were going to ask me if I party like a Viking, and I was going to sort of say no. That was no. At a certain point, and you reach a certain point in your lives, gentlemen, and just wait a couple of decades where you come to realize that doesn't really sort of pay off anymore. No, but I have to say that writing this book, this is my 10th book, and I've written on a lot of different subjects. Mobilization during World War II, my book Freedom's Forge, which I loved working on, and I had enormous difficulty stopping work on. My book on how the Scots invented the modern world, which was a New York Times bestseller. That was a really enjoyable book, and what a ride I took when that book came out and became a bestseller, both in the U.S. and also in Britain. I wound up on this, being appointed to the Scottish Arts Council, and was commuting back and forth between Charlottesville, Virginia, and Edinburgh during that period of time. As my wife will tell you, my last book is always my favorite book.
Yeah.
That's why I feel about each one of them. Each one of them are definitely very. I cherish each one. But there was something special about this book, I got to tell you. Maybe it's because of the personal connection, the family connection that went with it. Maybe it was also because of the way in which I was trying to, and constructing the book, bridging between the world of the Vikings, right, Dark Age Europe, in that context, and bridging to the Scandinavian American experience in the United States, and what it says about not just about Scandinavian Americans, but about the virtues of American society and the American values that drew them in the first place and they contributed to. There's something special about this book. That's all I can say.
No, it's very cool how you draw that parallel between the Viking heritage and American culture.
All right, well, that was a cool, fun time with Arthur Herman, Viking expert. If you want to hear the rest of that, subscribe to the Babylon Bee, and you can join us in the subscriber lounge, where we're going to do that and some more fun stuff. Let's do some hate mail.
I really miss Adam Ford.
So here's a message from House Loki, and he's responding to a post that we put up from Not the Bee. And he says, "How does it feel knowing that your entire organization, all of you who work there and the religion you fake to support, are terrorists?" You think Jesus was walking about talking
Strawberry
about people he disagreed with? You will destroy everything you hold valuable, and you still won't accept your own actions. Maybe each one of should have your mother's brought eye to this. I can make that happen if you'd like. Every day you think it's a game. Meanwhile, I never forget, and am taking names. Wait, this is like a threat. This is like...
It sounds like a threat, except it's almost incomprehensible.
He says, I have...
He called us terrorists.
He calls us terrorists.
We support terrorists.
He suggests he has the resources to bring our mothers into this somehow.
So he's calling us fake Christians, but then threatening to do something about it?
I know.
Yeah.
Most of the people that do that, and they write, you guys are hypocritical Christians, you know, you're making us Christians look bad. Then they're like, F you, man. Yeah. You're like, okay, well.
And then he says he can bring our mothers into this. I can make it happen if you'd like.
And it's Loki, the Viking god. Maybe he's just jealous. Maybe he's just jealous that we're worshiping the other god instead of...
Sorry, Loki.
Taking names.
All right, well, sad.
All right.
Maybe we shouldn't have read this on the air because we're going to get
it does sound like
our
a threat.
mothers dragged into it. All right, let's move on to our subscriber lounge where you can hear the rest of our cool interview with Arthur Herman. We've also have a Babylon Bee classic article of the week, some love mail, some bonus hate mail, subscriber headlines of the week, and more fun stuff. Let's do it.
Coming up next, for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Some memorabilia because her dad was a huge Carmen fan. He would blast his music to wake us up for church while we were cleaning the house.
It is very.
Is the top one or the bottom one the pedophile? that is.
You have a celebrity lookalike.
Do you have more knives than I need?
Oh, okay.
And I understand the urge to the manly urge to have more knives.
Yeah, the groundhog, being from Pennsylvania, is Punxsutawney Phil.
Right?
Okay.
New Jersey has their own crappy ripoff groundhog. I learned most of what I know about Vikings from Gary Larson's Far Side cartoons.
This has been another edition of the Bee Weekly from the dedicated team of certified fake news journalists you can trust here at the Babylon Bee, reminding you that AOC is definitely the worst, but we would totally date her if we could. Oh yeah. Welcome to the Babylon Bee Subscribers Only Lounge on the 3rd floor of the Babylon Bee audio yacht, floating on a glistening ocean of crisp dollar bills. Now that we've tossed those freeloading stowaways overboard, come on in and kick back. Put your feet up in one of our fine lambskin easy chairs, uncork a bottle of finely aged Welch's grape juice, and a golden bucket of cheesy fish crackers. Treat yourself to some free Carmen coloring books or one of our complimentary DC Talk body pillows as you enter into the rich and silky world of the Babylon Bees subscriber-exclusive luxury podcast experience. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Welcome to the action-packed subscriber lounge. We're going to start out with a classic Babylon Bee story of the week. Pelosi defends ripping up Trump's speech, saying it was just a clump of cells. That feels like one of those reach. It's a bit of a reach, but
I had forgotten.
I forgot about
that.
the speech thing.
Yeah,
that
he gives the State of the Union, and she's behind him at the end.
On all the cameras, just ripping.
They were so civil when Trump was president. You know?
Yeah,
I love that it was like clearly this thing that they had planned in advance, like that she would rip him. And if you watch the video, she's like pre-ripping it. Like throughout the speach,
she's like testing the strength of the paper.
She's old. She can't rip papers.
She pre-rips it, and then when she stands up and, I really liked it. I think that was an ad the Republicans put out after that, where they were like showing Trump saying, and I support the veterans.
Oh yeah.
And then they would cut to her.
Yeah.
And I support this.
Yeah.
I like puppies.
And unemployment was down. And
and she's.
Yeah.
And then they fact-checked that video. It's like Snopes and stuff fact-checked that video and said, no, she did not actually rip it up right after he said that. She ripped it up at the end.
Yeah, this has been deceptively edited.
Oh my gosh, they're so ridiculous.
All right, well.
That's classic.
Certainly is a classic. We got some love mail this week.
Muchas gracias, mi amor. Love mail.
This is a long love mail. I will try to sum up. This is from Tiffany, and she says that she is impressed with our Carmen questions and memorabilia because her dad was a huge Carmen fan. He would blast his music to wake us up for church while we were cleaning the house. She built a float to represent our church for the town's 4th of July parade. My dad hauled a CD player and 3-foot-tall speakers and blasted "We Need God in America" again through the streets. That's classic. Ethan is greatly missed. I was going to write back in December a comment about a statement he made during the podcast. I laughed out loud when Ethan was talking about how shy he was when he realized that Elon wasn't the kind of person who would understand the guy's sarcastic jokes. That did not stop him from asking Elon to build a vagina-shaped rocket for equality. My favorite B moments of all. That's actually why Ethan was let go. No, I'm just kidding. Adam is a great addition to the podcast. His news stories are hilarious, and he does a wonderful job on the interviews. Tell him that blue shirt he wore on the 127 podcast is his color. Wow.
Ooh.
You gotta remember to wear that one.
Blue. Keep up the amazing work, guys. Can I tell you how your humor and the feelings of camaraderie have really helped so many of us during these crazy times?
Thanks, Tiffany.
Cool. We got some bonus hate mail also.
Bonus hate mail.
This is from Jonathan. You want to read this one first, Dan?
Yeah, so we put out a video with the AOC dating game,
Yeah.
right? We have contestant 1, 2, and 3, and our very own writer Travis was one of the contestants.
He's just off frame here.
He's just off frame. And it says, Bachelor number 2 is a dead ringer for the pedophile in the movie The Devil's Advocate. So, like, we actually put some of these images together, and it's uncanny.
It is very...
Is the top one or the bottom one the pedophile? I'm just kidding. Travis is awesome, and
Yeah.
that is
You
kind
have a celebrity lookalike.
that is kind of uncanny, but
Have you ever gotten that before?
That I'm a pedophile?
No, not that you're a pedophile. That you look like a pedophile from a movie.
that actor.
Like, have you ever gotten that reference before?
Never one. Well, I don't think most people know who he is.
I don't either.
I've never
Are
seen
there
that
any
movie.
celebrities that you get?
When I was younger, people said I looked like Jim Carrey, which I
Oh.
did. My wife claims I look like Bill Murray, but I think that
And how old is your wife?
she's 82.
Just checking.
She's 1 year older than me.
I could see Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, it's because of my widow's peak.
I see. It's because of your wit, your quick wit and humor.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I like Bill Murray. I don't like the pedophile.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So.
Strong stance.
Dan is coming
One
out
time
against
I was out
pedophilia.
eating and a pedophile came and took a French fry off of my plate and said, "You'll never believe this," and walked away.
I know what you're talking about.
I know what he's talking about too. Bill Murray always says that. Or people always say that about Bill Murray.
Yeah, there's all these stories about him just interacting with people in weird ways.
And then telling
Oh,
them
so
no one will...
people will like, no one will believe this. Bill Murray just came up and
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did the old switcheroo and said it was a
switcheroo.
pedophile.
All right, moving on. So this are the subscriber submitted headlines of the week.
Subscriber headlines.
Oh dear says, freedom not available in California due to supply chain issues.
I like it.
I like it.
This is from Wildfire. Man excited to be gifted new hunting knife that will be used for opening Amazon packages.
That's very relatable.
You always know it's good when you get a from Dan.
I do like knives. I do have more knives than I need.
Oh, okay.
And I understand the urge to the
I
manly
get it.
urge to have more knives.
Yeah, that you always want more
Yeah.
masculine urge to have knives. Yeah, okay.
And you see like a bigger knife and you're like, I don't know what I need that for, but I need that bigger knife.
Totally. So this is from Pure Tej. Op-ed, respect people who wear glasses. They pay money to see you.
Oh, Tej, we love you. Kurgle, nothing says women's empowerment like putting Minnie Mouse in man's clothes. In man clothes.
Oh yeah, because they redid her design and now she wears like a pantsuit or something.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that story, but that is...
Yeah.
Well, I think it was just
Part
for...
of it was for, people were saying that they had redesigned
Oh,
her,
yeah,
but
it
it
was-
was just for like some anniversary event.
for women's
they had
something.
designed her
Okay.
like in like a
So she's not
outfit.
gonna be like that forever.
Permanently no.
Okay.
No.
She's not...
No, unlike the green M&M, she's going to go back to being hot. So Ulu123 writes, local woman somehow manages to be empowered without behaving like a prostitute.
I don't know. Publish it.
Prostitute's just it's one of those funny words to end a joke on.
It is, yeah. It's great.
This is from Wildfire. Disney agrees that one person with dwarfism can speak for all of them because they're all the same after all.
TDM Phantom with a D. Fact check. Australian Open. False. I like
That's pretty good.
I like how
I like that
straight
one.
up that is. Yeah. That's good.
Another one from Ulu123. Neil Young demands to be removed from Spotify if it saves just one person from being healed by ivermectin.
You got another Dan.
This is from Veld's Bato, Academy to honor church greeter with Lifetime Achievement Award for decades-long portrayal of someone who's always happy. That is a little creepy. Like when you go to a church and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" Oh, it's like you've never. That's not you.
I was visiting my brother's church, and they have like special visitor parking spots, and they section it off like first time visitor, second time visitor, and then like
Really?
then like just visitor, but not your first or
You
second.
slowly get demoted.
And
in
you
your
get demoted,
parking space.
and you get worse and worse parking as you join the church.
And then the next space is start tithing.
Yeah, now you have to start paying. But when you park in the first time visitor, they know to hone in on you. So you park in there, and they're just at the car, like banging on your windows. Hey, Ulu 123. Human babies apparently safe from inflation as they remain priceless.
Aww.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Kiergol. New White House cat refuses to call First Lady Dr. Jill.
This is from Corn Pop. He's a bad dude. Michelle Obama removed from SCOTUS consideration after failing to meet one of Biden's 2 qualifications. Oh, my.
Dear Teach, disappointed with new belt. Orion gives it 3 stars.
Wordplay.
Pure Teach, man.
Veldsbato, local prof's well-researched paper on Hebraic etymology rejected by journal for lacking a discussion on climate change.
Feel like, is that
and not like all the words in that one.
Too short.
Yeah, well, what's the saying? Brevity is the soul of wit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think
I'm not trying to slam you, but
it doesn't always have to be short, but it should be as short as it should be.
Yeah, right. Another one from Veld's Bato. Local prof finds student's essay very persuasive and articulate, but it contradicts his personal beliefs, so it gets an F. This sounds autobiographical.
Yeah, it sounds
like Veld's Bato is in college somewhere and he's getting an F because he wrote something that's conservative vaguely, or
Well, our people need to vent in the forums.
Yeah, I get you.
SDH, our very own slightly desperate housewife, hero saves her baby's life by not going to Planned Parenthood. That's just true. I mean, like I said.
That's not satire.
That's not. I thought this was supposed to be
There's
satire.
one from Cookie Monster himself. Oh dear. Couple that used fake vax cards could have avoided felony charges if they had just printed fake ballots instead.
Yeah, that was a big story, right? Like these 2 nurses were like selling fake vaccine cards and making like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I think it said $1.5 million.
Holy cow!
They made from selling fake vax cards.
Wow.
We should have done that. Oh, they got in trouble?
Yeah, they got in trouble though.
So that's not allowed.
We should have made that much off of our identify as vax t-shirts.
I wish.
Yeah.
Was that wrong? Should I not have done that?
This is from Free Beans.
That's a great name.
And the profile picture is beans. I like it.
Free Beans.
Free Beans writes, researchers for Nielsen confirm that CNN's remaining viewers are just bedridden people with broken remote controls.
People that don't. Yeah, there might be something there. Free Beans, wife's uncanny ability to save important questions for the exact moment that husband brushes his teeth is unparalleled.
Ulu123 has been a busy writer this week. Fetus tests positive for human being.
Oh, I like that one. That's good.
This is from Kurgol. Pelosi sees her shadow. 6 more weeks of January 6 hearings. Did you guys see that groundhog, that is the groundhog, that had died like the day before and they couldn't find a replacement?
Yes, it's the one in New Jersey.
Punxsutawney Phil?
No, see, this is the thing. It's not the groundhog. Being from Pennsylvania is Punxsutawney Phil.
Right?
Okay.
New Jersey has their own crappy ripoff groundhog called Milltown Mel. And Milltown Mel thankfully died.
Okay. So it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean like 12 more years of COVID.
I don't know what that means, no.
Okay. So because it's not the real groundhog.
I didn't do this joke in Weekly News, but this guy I work with, he was looking at the headlines, and he pitched a joke for that. It was New Jersey's groundhog Milltown Mel died right before Groundhog's Day. He will be buried in Chris Christie's oven at 350 degrees for 2 hours. The joke being that Chris Christie is going to eat the dead groundhog.
I got Born Sanders. Not to be outdone by Trump's Save America rally, Biden announces a Save China rally.
Pure Tej, report, if my calculations are correct, then someone else did them for me. I like that one.
Oh, Tej.
All these
It reminds me of Trey
autobiographical.
Gowdy.
Yeah. This one is from Surf Duck.
It does look like a duck surfing on the avatar, which is awesome.
Local man notices everyone seems to have removed their Biden-Harris bumper stickers.
That is kind of true. I don't think I've seen very many. And we're in California.
Mm-hmm.
BJ37, finally, White House cat teaches Biden to chase laser pointer.
I like that one.
Great job this week, everybody. Some great submissions. We're going to move on to the rest of our interview with Arthur Herman. So join us for more thrilling discussion about the Vikings.
Now, prior to your book, I learned most of what I know about Vikings from Gary Larson's Far Side cartoons. Are you familiar with those?
Very important resource, by the way, for scholars and historians as well.
That's where my knowledge comes from. We have a few Far Side cartoons here. I don't know if you can see them, but I can explain them to you. And I'm just curious if these are historically accurate at all, or what they get right or wrong.
Yeah.
So first there's a Viking ship pulling up on a ship full of they have a flower flag and they're carrying pillows. And it says, although skilled with their pillow arsenal, the Wimpodites were favorite targets of the Viking attacks.
Is that accurate? Wimpodites? Is that
I would say, if you look at the context in which the Vikings operated, and we're talking about, the 8th and 9th centuries, right, AD, there aren't a lot of Wimpodites running around. The Vikings, what I'm saying is that the Vikings' opponents were pretty tough. Pretty formidable warriors wherever they went.
They didn't have easy opponents.
And very often, as I explain in the book, the Vikings were hardly invincible. Very often, they wound up losing as often as they wound up winning in their fights, whether you're talking about fighting with the Anglo-Saxons or whether you're fighting with the Byzantines or whether you're fighting with the Franks or even with each other. Again, one of the other myths, the Vikings spend much more time fighting among each other than they do waging war on their neighbors. Because that's where the stakes are. That's the immediate stakes are. Who's going to control the meager resources that go with the kingdoms up there in the frozen meat locker of Scandinavia. So in that sense, Gary Larson gets it right. No Wimpodites.
We also have I think it's a Viking ship that's being rowed by slaves, and it says the better equipped slave ships, of course, always carried a spare, and then there's a spare slave,
kind of like a spare tire attached to the back of the boat.
Strapped to the back of the boat.
Did they have those longboats with like the oarsmen?
Absolutely, that was the key to one of the keys to the Viking success is that their longships had two sources of power, right? Muscle power on the one hand, which was the oars, but then also the square sail and being able to use wind power as a way in which you could take advantage of the wind currents for longer voyages and longer trips. But look, here's something to bear in mind is that Viking ships were all manned by free human beings, right? I mean, there were slaves who went along with them. There were slaves that went along and who were part of the crew from that standpoint. But what the longship represented was the solidarity of the group, who are not only traveling together, in some cases, at great distances, for example, across the Atlantic, but who are also sharing the same space. I mean, there's no captain's cabin on this Viking.
Oh, really?
Longship. No, everybody sleeps above deck. Everybody sleeps together in a communal setting on a longship, and I think that's one of the things that, if you were an anthropologist or a sociologist, you'd say is one of the things that made for the important solidarity of a Viking crew and a Viking expeditionary force is the fact that they are bound together, night and day there isn't this sort of hierarchy or separation between the captain and the commanders and the other ranks. They are part of a community before they sail, during their sail, and during the battles and
The
expeditions.
two sources of power is interesting. So they were early hybrid vehicles.
Yes.
Really.
They had very low carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now we have one more cartoon here. It says, historical note, for many years until they became truly nasty, Vikings would plunder, loot, and then egg the houses of coastal villagers. And it has them throwing eggs on people's villages.
Yeah, but my guess is probably the Vikings were probably not going to throw away a valuable food commodity like eggs. But I think one of the things that we have to understand, we talk about the Dark Ages and the people living in the Dark Ages, is not to assume that because we call it the Dark Ages that people were overly serious or sort of that their days were cast in gloom and a doom outlook. I think that when you read the Viking sagas, which are, by the way, one of the great works of literature in the world, you come to realize the degree to which the Vikings really were pranksters, and that there is a sardonic sense of humor that runs through the Viking experience and life at that time that's reflected in the sagas, and that we have to imagine as another part of daily life in the Viking world, and I think in a lot of what happens in pre-modern society. We shouldn't always get the impression that people were serious or pompous in all these kinds of situations and all of that. There's certainly no reason to think that the Vikings were.
Cool. Well, that concludes our Far Side survey.
Well, it was very instructive, gentlemen. I really appreciate bringing the sidelights. We go out. The sidelights of history can be very important for illuminating the main currents.
All right, we conclude every interview with 10 questions, the same 10 questions we ask every guest. You can answer these rapid fire if you like. You don't have to go in depth, or you can. If you get going, then just go. Number one, have you ever met Christian rapper Carmen?
Christian rapper Carmen and I do not exchange tweets or any other social
probably
media.
Don't run in the same circles.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Secondly, are you a Calvinist or an Arminian?
Ooh, that is a very, very interesting question. I would have to say my inclinations, and you won't be surprised, are more on the Arminian side. And that the notion of predestination and the challenge that it poses to the idea of free will. I may be wrong, but my instincts tip me on the Arminian side on that.
You get to add one book to the Bible. What is it?
Can I go back on that one?
You can think about it while we're...
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. You got to think about that, yeah.
Next, cigars or pipes?
Cigars or pipes? Well, when I lived in France, when I was doing my dissertation research, I had been a cigarette smoker, but became a pipe smoker. And the reason is that the heating in my apartment was variable. And one of the great things about having a pipe is that it's like having a little fireplace at your hand. And so it helped sort of my hands from getting numb when I was doing when I was writing or doing other kinds of activities. So definitely more of a pipe than cigar guy.
You get to hang out with any three people, living or dead. Who are they?
I think you mentioned one of them, Harold Hardler. That would definitely be high on my list. And who I idolized from boyhood would be W.C. Fields. I think that would be an interesting afternoon to spend talking to Bill Fields and involved with that. And then the other person, I guess, would probably be Ludwig van Beethoven. And because you would always know that even if you made a faux pas in your conversation with him, that he wouldn't really notice because he was deaf. So I think that would be one of the things in dealing with him, that you would never have to worry about saying the wrong thing.
Next, whiskey or beer?
Oh, whiskey without a doubt. Especially since now I've developed a an intolerance for gluten. So, and then of course you got to remember, gentlemen, you're talking to the author of How the Scots Invented the Modern World, and so.
So, what is your Scotch of choice?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and I can offend all kinds of constituencies and groups of readers of my books. That if I were to state one in particular, but I would say that the one that most consistently comes to hand when it's time to have a dram or two would probably be Macallan. I think Macallan, and particularly the 18-year-old, is definitely the one that would be the dram of choice.
Nice, good choice.
That was kind of a dumb question for him. That'd be like asking him, what do you like better, Vikings or Romans or something? And he'd be like, duh, you know. I don't know. What would be the first thing you would do as president?
The first thing that I would do as president would probably to immediately demand a recount.
Next, have you ever been punched or punched anyone?
Oh, well, punched, yeah, in junior high. That was kind of the fate for a budding young scholar and book nerd. That's the fate that you face on a daily basis. As far as punching anyone myself, doing anything along those lines, I'm going to have to dodge that question.
But you got punched for being a book nerd, and now you're a best-selling author of like 10 books. So I mean, who comes out on top? Who comes out on top there? Yeah,
it's the best revenge, isn't it? I know, best revenge. I mean, every once in a while, I'll look up on Facebook my bullies,
and they're all losers now.
Oh man, let me tell you, it's a sad life out there. I almost feel bad.
None of them has written a book on the Vikings.
Not a single.
You get to go to one concert, any band in history. What do you go to?
Probably the one that I would be the most, that I would immediately be drawn to would probably be Paul Revere and the Raiders. Look at that. They're stunned in silence. They can't even believe it.
No.
You ever gotten that answer once? Oh man,
nice.
I think that would be quite a trip. Them or the Tremolos. I could definitely see the Tremolos too. Any of those 60s boys bands. Up to and including the Monkees. I would be very happy to go to a Monkees reunion. I think that would.
We've never gotten the Monkees.
No.
Sadly, it can't happen now. It can't happen. Their numbers have their numbers have thinned with the passing of band members. But that's where I would gravitate to of past bands for sure.
Before we get to question 10, you still have to answer question 3. You can add one book to the Bible. What is it?
I think it would be rather interesting to see Sun Tzu's Art of War added to the Bible as a required reading. I think the cultural impact of that side by side with the New and Old Testaments would be, I think, a sweeping experiment in cultural cross-fertilization.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then finally, do you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior?
Gentlemen, I have to tell you that I am, from that point of view, a man of the Enlightenment, and therefore follow in the footsteps of David Hume and Adam Smith and other figures as being somewhat of a skeptic on the religious front. But what I can also tell you is that I have a great deal of respect for, very seriously, very great deal of respect for, and great affinity for those who do believe and for those who are believers. I'm not at all put off by issue of religious belief, evangelicals and others. My view on people who are is very much like that of the paratroop. I don't know if you know this story. when Dwight Eisenhower, just before D-Day, was inspecting the airborne troops who were about to go, to be dropped into Normandy. And he was meeting with them, 101st Airborne and 82nd Airborne, and wishing them good luck, knowing that they would go off, that many of them would not come back. And finally, he just ran out of things to say to them or questions to ask them. So finally, he came to one young man, and he said, "So, son, how do you like jumping out of airplanes?" And the paratrooper said, "I hate it. I get sick every time I think about it." And Eisenhower was taken back at this, and he said, "Really?" He said, then why'd you volunteer to become a paratrooper? And he said, "Well, sir," he said, "I don't like jumping out of airplanes, but I feel a whole lot safer being surrounded by people who do." And I guess that's kind of how I feel about Christians and about people with strong religious beliefs. I may not share that belief, but I take a lot of strength from those who do.
Well, you're welcome. All right. Well, we may not have converted in, but we still had a great conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in and talking.
Hey, listen, guys, it's been a great pleasure. You guys do amazing work, and I found you when checking out your tweets, and I got to tell you, at first, I didn't realize that they were humorous. I thought maybe you were just another news service, and it took me a long time to realize that. And I'm going to pay you a compliment and a tribute, and that is that it must be really, really hard to do satire in an environment like this, because every time you come up with what you think will be the most outrageous and laughable example of people's stupidity or hypocrisy or obtuseness, reality passes you by. It's gotta be tough.
Yeah, there's a whole category of articles that are like Babylon Bee predictions, that were articles that started out as satire and then eventually became true.
The fulfilled prophecies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fulfillment of prophecy. Yeah, I can see why that would appeal to you.
Well, thanks a lot. He just said that we're as cool as the Vikings. Is what I heard.
Yes.
I think cooler. I'll put that out there.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
The Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Super Bowl, marking the first time that anyone has... I can't do it. The Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bagels...
Keep it.